chug-a-lug, make you want to holler, hidey-ho. Burns your tummy, don't you know? Chug-a-lug.
And this is SFBarkast. I'm Jeff Cleary.
I am Andrew Lauder.
And Andrew, where are we today?
We are at the EpicRoasthouse.
Roast House.
This is actually I've never heard anybody say the word epic that I wanted to hang out with. You know, it's it's always like epic.
It is kind of sound like a bunch of surfers should hang out here.
Right.
Where it's like, oh man, that braised chicken was epic.
I know, it's like, and you look at the menu and everything like that, and it's the furthest thing from like surfer food you could imagine. Like,
yeah, absolutely, it is. You do not see a whole lot of surfers.
You don't want to pay $30 for a cheeseburger, epic.
Ooh, the prices of this food is epic.
And have you eaten there? My credit card bill is epic.
But the reason why it is expensive and epic is because it's on the Embarcadero, right downtown at Embarcadero and Folsom.
An unbelievable location. I mean, like,
yeah,
this is one of those locations where I think you have to have billions of dollars behind you in investment money to even think about opening a restaurant.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that, like, I know on the marina, they're trying to put a restaurant in on the Marina Green, and there's a bunch of people who are against this because they figure, like, oh, Marina Green, it's like public use space. You can't, like, hand it over to some private developers.
Right.
But that's what they did here, because this used to be a big, long park, and they just they built 2 restaurants here.
Yeah, that's why I say, like, I think you have to have some politician in your back pocket or something like that and be like, yeah, we'd like to open a restaurant, like, on public land, so why don't you make that happen there, buddy? Off to Congress
exactly.
with you.
It's kind of like what they did in Brooklyn. I saw this documentary about them putting in the Barclays Center.
Right.
And they basically handed over this, the state and the city of New York City use eminent domain to kick people out of their own apartments so that this, like, private investor could make $1 billion, like, putting in the Barclays arena for the Nets.
Why not?
So it's kind of like that.
You want Jay-Z to move into your neighborhood, don't you? Well, get out.
Right. Get out. People who've been here for a while, get out.
But a couple of just interesting tidbits that I picked up on the internet for this place is the chef whose name is Jan Birnbaum, I believe, or could be Jan, but it's a guy, so
Chef
I'm thinking
Birnbaum?
it's Jan, like Jan Hammer. He worked at, like, K. Paul in New Orleans for Paul Prudhomme for a long time.
Oh, really?
And so he's got quite the background, and, like, worked in Napa and, like, all kinds of stuff. I guess he's fairly well known.
New Orleans is I feel like if you were a chef coming from New Orleans, you kind of got it made.
Right.
You know?
Apart from the whole, like, Katrina thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're able to survive that.
Oh, you're from New Orleans? Lucky. Some guy on, like, a boat, like, in the middle of, like, the fucking precinct, or what do they call it? Ward?
The ward, the Gulf
Ninth
of Mexico.
Ward.
He's knee deep in the Gulf of Mexico, and he's standing in his living room.
You pretty much got it made.
You got it made.
You move somewhere and call yourself a chef. You're gonna do all right.
No, but everything, like, I've always often said this about New Orleans, is that the people there, everything there is to excess. It's like people, they drink too much, they eat too much, they talk too much, and it's all awesome.
As long as you're not around any of the people that are doing way too much of everything, probably. But I've heard that, like, especially, I mean, like, Bourbon Street is just a complete, like, shit show of awfulness. But, like, but yeah, I can imagine the rest of it's probably kind of nice. Although I don't think I would like the weather there at all. Like it's supposed to be hot and sticky
humid.
and shitty and just all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I had a good time there, but, like, it's like one of those places I went to, and I'm like, yeah, I can't live here, but I love it.
Yeah. It's one of those places that I haven't been to, but I still like to judge.
Hey, you know what? You should be like a priest or like the Pope or something. I don't have to have any experience with any shit to judge people's lifestyles.
I'm gonna start, like, a travel show that's just like places I haven't been that I can judge. Or be like, Toronto, Canada, that looks kind of stupid.
I had a friend who he didn't review movies, but he reviewed movies trailers. He's like, that's all I need.
Yeah, I'll just review, like, travel guides of places I haven't been. They're like, oh, pictures are great in this. Like, looks fantastic. But another one of the things, like, this place, it was designed by a guy named Pat Coletto.
Pat.
Yeah, Pat. You know Pat.
PK.
PK would call him the Coots.
The Coots.
P. Coletto. He also designed like a restaurant down by the opera called Jardiniere, and he did Water Bar, which is right next to this, and Farallon, and another place called Boulevard. But like he's like a big shot, like in the restaurant tour design world.
You know what? I will give him credit though, because this bar is the design of it inside. The interior design is fantastic.
Yeah.
And if you go over to Water Bar, which is right next to each, people don't know, Epic is right next to Water Bar, and they're the two new bars on. The two new restaurants on Embarcadero.
Right.
And they're just gorgeous inside.
Yeah.
The one Water Bar has like two huge aquariums right in the middle of it.
Wow.
And that's more of an oyster bar. And this one just has, like you're saying, it has like what's the decor in here?
Oh, it's weird. I was reading about this, and like because it's I guess close to or right at location of a like a proposed fire pump house. From like around the turn of the century, so like where you would basically have these like stations that suck the water out of the bay to like fight fires, and so it's like and it would be this massive like sort of pump house that would take all the water out of the bay and like put it in the fire hydrants for everybody, and so I guess that this was a proposed site that they never got around to building like an actual pump house in, but if it had been there, like basically the 1906 earthquake wouldn't have been very bad at all. But yeah, it would have prevented the earthquake, like in Superman, where they like take all the water out and there's nothing.
Well, yeah, the decor. There are like everywhere you turn here. There's like some huge like drain main.
Right. Main drain or like gears. And
yeah, and it's actually like just maybe 100 yards down the Embarcadero. That's where the aquatic fire station is.
Oh, okay. So an actual like probably what the actual pump house turned into or something.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, so I mean, like, yeah, so it's weird because that was sort of done. It was inspired by that, like, which is kind of presumptuous if you think about it, because it's none of this stuff is really old, but it's all like it's all made to look old, and then like to have that sort of backstory is like, well, if only this restaurant had been here, then everyone would have survived the 1906 earthquake.
That just goes to show how much like juice that designer is bringing to the table.
Yeah,
because like he shows up to all like the investors and he's like, I've got an idea. Now listen, close your eyes, pump house. And they're just like, God, you did it again.
Exactly. Oh man, we were just gonna put a goddamn Applebee's in here, but like
that's what we pay you the big bucks for.
But yeah, like that's what makes me think that like between this P. Coulettes and the Chef Jan Hammer. They must have some big pull in the city to just be like, yeah, you know what, like there's no waterfront available in this city, but why don't you give us some?
Yeah, you know what I'd like? How about if I take this part of the public park and just put up a huge money-making scheme?
All those people are wasting time jogging and running around. Like, how about if instead you just give it to me?
It does have a very beautiful view here, because on one side you have you can see the ferry building, and there's this huge like art installation with the bow and arrow that is going into the ground.
Yeah.
And that's what it's massive, and it's right in front of the Gap headquarters. Mm-hmm. And then just looking over, then it overlooks the bay, and you have this beautiful view of Treasure Island. Well, there's no beautiful view of Treasure Island, actually. It's Treasure Island view.
Not while Joe Gorman's living there, anyway.
And then there's Yerba Buena Island,
okay.
And then there's the Bay Bridge. And it's a short walk down to AT&T Park from here to watch the Giants game, which is going on tonight as well.
Now, you mentioned the Gap. Like that is a company that made the serious lapse in judgment and gave you a job for a while.
I know. Like their screening process is really not that good because I worked there for 5.5 years. And yeah, it's the Gap headquarters here, and right. It's this beautiful 14th floor building over there. And like one of the things I do miss from working over there is Don Fisher, who started the Gap.
Right.
He was a art collector when he made all his money. So they have these two private galleries that anyone who works there can go and like check out. And it's just like priceless, like Warhols and Chuck Close and Calder and Lichtenstein. Right.
Well, that's the way art should be. It should be only available to employees of the guy who bought it. Like, screw museums.
Well, I thought you meant, like, Eric Bogosian had a great line once where he said, like, back in the day, like, rich people used to shoot ferocious animals and cut their heads off and put them up on their mantle. And so, like, yeah, I did that. And now rich people, like, buy art.
Right.
They're like saying, like, look, I can buy all this genius work. It's mine.
Like, man, this Mona Lisa is really beautiful, but, like, I don't like the fact that just anybody can go see it. Like,
Right.
I want to be the guy that decides who sees it.
I mean, in his defense, he does have a deal with the SF MoMA, and, like, they have they switch it out. He brings a lot of his shit over there.
Right. It's like, yeah, I found this behind the couch. Put it up.
I think that's what the
I think it's a Calder or something. I don't know what
the
the fuck
opening
it
was
is.
called. It's like Don Fisher's shit.
I like this.
All right, are you ready to take a break?
We can take a break.
Why don't we tease our special guest?
We have a very special guest today. In fact, I'd be surprised if anybody listened to this part of the show. Like, maybe at the very beginning
Maybe
we can
you
be
should
like,
tell-
skip ahead to 1605, like, because this is all bullshit.
Yeah, our guest today is the one and only Jimmy Dore.
Jimmy Dore.
He did comedy and everything else, and he also has a very popular podcast, the
Jimmy Dore Show. Indeed. And, like, he's one of the premier political comedians in the country.
Yep, he's got a book coming out.
That's what he told us. I don't know if that's public knowledge, but, like,
Oh,
but who knows?
All
We'll
right.
see.
Well, maybe he's got a book coming out.
Maybe. You never know.
All right, so this is SF Barkast from EpicRoasthouse, and we will be back. All right, and we are back. This is SF Barkast. I'm Jeff Cleary.
I'm Andrew Lauder.
And today we have a very special guest, the one, the only, Jimmy Dore.
Thank you. Now, when you say special, you mean you don't mean that in the mental defective way, right?
No. Special, like our only guests we've had are like friends of ours.
Oh, okay.
And not that you're not a friend of ours.
No, we're not. We're definitely not friends.
Well, maybe by the end of
Let's
after a
make
few more
friends.
drinks.
Let's make friends.
Well,
Okay.
welcome to SF Barcast.
Thanks for having me. It's a great bar. I like this place.
Yeah, like it's right on the water, and you're in town for a few shows.
Yeah, I'm doing Rooster Teeth Feathers up in Sunnyvale, or down in Sunnyvale, wherever which way it goes.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yes.
And
Here comes my root beer float, by
who's
the way.
opening up for you tonight?
Some comics.
Some comic, I believe.
Kevin O'Shea.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
really? Oh, Kevin's a good friend.
And there's, let me see, the guy, Jimmy Gunn was on the show last night, but he's not going to be on tonight.
Oh, okay.
So let me, if I check my Twitter, it'll say.
Okay, yeah, take your time.
Okay. Rooster Teeth Feathers, come see Jimmy Dore. College night, last night,
Last night was college night.
with Sean O'Connor and Kevin O'Shea.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Kevin O'Shea's a very funny guy.
Okay.
He used to come to my open mic at Annie's Social Club.
Oh, really?
I ran an open mic for 2.5 years.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay.
He's a good guy.
He is a good guy. So how's your podcast going?
My podcast is going very good. Hang on one second.
It's the Jimmy Dore Show, which is available. Search iTunes for it. But it's
Sean was on the show last night. He was hilarious. Have you ever seen Sean?
Sean
O'Connor.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen him.
He's very funny.
Oh, excellent. But and you have your own podcast, the Jimmy Dore Show,
I had two,
which is
I used to have one. My first podcast I did with Todd Glass
Mm-hmm.
and Steph Zamorano, and it was called Comedy and Everything Else, and that was just a straight comedy podcast where we interviewed other comedians about comedy and we talked about stuff. We did
that was.
about
I mean, that was like right at the beginning almost. I mean,
yes,
like that's
that was right at the beginning. And we
of when podcasts really took off.
yeah,
It's like
and
now
it was
everybody's
fun,
got
a lot of fun to do that. We get we had over 1 million downloads. It was really popular. And then I did like 180 episodes, and then I just got too busy doing my other show, which is for the Jimmy Dore Show.
Right.
And I started doing when I added the web series, which I do for the Young Turks Network, I just got too busy to keep doing it. And I just kind of lost interest interviewing other comedians. Like, I had interviewed pretty much everybody I wanted to.
Right, yeah.
And it just started to become a hassle to schedule people. You know what a hassle is.
Yeah.
It's a hassle,
Do you ever miss having Todd around?
Yes, all the time. Todd's,
Yeah.
he's one of the
I
funnest
love
guys.
his podcast, too.
It was
Yeah.
a really crazy dynamic for that show because
Yes.
Todd wanted it to be so completely crazy and do bits and
That's why I thought it worked well. I think it was a nice
Yeah.
compliment. We were kind of opposites in some ways, were similar in a lot of ways. And then the reason why Steph Zamorano was included was because her and well, she's my wife, but at the time we were dating. But her and Todd, when they got together, they were hilarious together. I mean, they could not stop doing bits.
Right.
They would just always do bits. And so when Todd and I decided to do a thing, I was like, well, we should have Steph, because you guys literally, it would make me angry sometimes that we'd go over to Todd's house and Todd and Steph would just go off on their own thing, and I'm sitting there with my dick in my hand, watching TV. I'm like, what the fuck, you guys? I could hear them laughing. Come, Steph, come here in my bedroom. And they would go do, And of course, we know Todd's gay, so I didn't have to worry about the bedroom thing, but...
But so eventually you got tired of him and fired Todd, is what I understand.
Yeah.
Well, I know, like, Todd, like, listening to Todd's podcast, oh my God, he can go on forever.
Yes.
Like, I feel like if anyone can run out some batteries or, like, or on a recorder or something, Todd can. He can go for, like, 3 hours doing
we were talking
nonsense.
We were talking a few weeks ago about, like, about podcasters sort of doing the same thing that, like, Dane Cook and, like, we're doing, where they want to set the record for the longest podcast. I think Todd's got a real in to, like, be that champion, like, if he wants to.
What was the Dane Cook record? What was he had a record? He
Yeah,
did
like
6 hours.
Well, it was trading back and forth with him and Dave Chappelle. I think would do like 8 or 9 hours.
Doesn't that sound terrible, Jimmy?
Yes. I can't. It's like That's like getting a 7-hour hand job. It's like that. They're really fun in short doses, but anything, hand job, anything over 10 minutes, I'm gonna start getting a burn.
Exactly. Like,
Totally.
And
most people complained about chafing after those shows.
I don't understand. I never knew that comedy was some kind of endurance sport. I don't understand what you get out of that. Like the award for doing that's like. I'm the loudest whisperer. Like, I don't understand.
Well, I think we went to a show once that was it was Rick Shapiro at a local like bar here, and he could tell after a while that he was going to run everybody out of that room, no matter how long it took, and it was just and so it became this sort of like gauntlet of like where it's like like I'm not going to let this guy win. I'm going to stay.
Really?
Like he wants me to leave, but I'm not going to give him what he
It's like
wants.
a Mexican standoff, or it's like between you and the audience.
I don't. I'm all. I don't have a problem. I don't understand what people get out of.
Going like all those like long distance stuff, like isn't there like a rule in show business? You leave them wanting more, and if you're on the stage for 6 hours, like I know people who went to go see Dave Chappelle, and this girl like loved Dave Chappelle. She said I left at 3 a.m. because like I got a work job to go to.
I mean, brevity is the soul of wit, correct?
Right.
Is that a truism or not? I'm not sure.
I think so.
Anyway, but good for them. I mean, Dave Chappelle's certainly hilarious, and I'm sure I've done a lot of things that he would disagree with in my career. So.
Whatever. Hey, can I say something about your podcast?
Sure.
Every time I go to a comedy show or listen to a podcast, I always am listening for the oldest non-historical reference. And every time on your show, Frank Conniff wins.
Sure. Yeah,
every
definitely.
single time.
Definitely. He's Mr. Reference of old movies and everything.
Well, it's like, it's one thing if you make a joke about the Hindenburg, that's historical.
Right.
But it's like on your last podcast.
Oh, here's my root beer float.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic.
Now, that is a fancy-looking root beer float, I have to say.
But on your last podcast, he made some mention about, who is that Islamic writer?
Reza Aslan?
Yeah. And he said like that was the best thing to ever happen to him. And he's like, that's like when David Brenner went on the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
I didn't do the math, but it's got to be like 35 years old.
Oh my God, that's right. When he made that reference, I didn't even think about it. Yeah, like, who knows? You have to be like almost over 60 to get that.
Right. That's it. Made him like the Lindbergh baby.
All right, hey, let's take a break.
Okay.
And we will be back from Epic with Jimmy Dore.
All right.
We got the message. I heard it on the airwaves. The politicians are now DJs. The broadcast was spreading. Station to station, like an infection across the nation.
All right, and we are back at EpicRoasthouse.
The EpicRoasthouse.
It is a pretty epic roast
On,
house.
what is it, Embarcadero and Folsom,
In Folsom.
correct?
Yeah, right down on the bay. And we're here with Jimmy Dore.
Jimmy Dore.
Hi, you guys.
By the way, I want to compliment your podcast.
I mean, Mike McRae is like the greatest
Yes,
find
Mike
ever.
McRae
right?
does.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
He just does impeccable impressions of people in the news.
How did you find
It's
that guy?
amazing. Well, we worked together on the road in Boise probably 12 years ago, or
wow.
something like that.
He's perfect.
He's amazing, and he does spot-on impressions of Barack Obama, Bill O'Reilly, Morgan Freeman.
Now, was he doing? I mean, he was doing these on the road, like just
He would sprinkle them in his act. Yeah,
Okay,
he does a
all
lot
right.
of voices. I mean, I haven't seen his act for probably 12 years since I worked with him, so I don't know really what he's doing now.
And he lives in Texas, right?
Yeah, he lives in Austin, Texas, and he really is amazing. I mean, when I remember the first time I had him on, maybe it was a year and a half ago, and he did Bill O'Reilly, and so the next day I'm walking around the radio station in LA, and everybody's going, "Hey, how did you get Bill O'Reilly on your show?"
Yeah, right.
And I was like, "No, it's not. It's an impression." They go, "Get out!" They couldn't believe it. Oh, nope, it's not Bill O'Reilly. So,
well, hopefully now that he's drunk every time he calls in, they know that it's.
So now we have him call it drunk, so people kind of get it.
I think the last time I saw you, we were at the Bridgetown Comedy Festival in
that was
Portland.
fun, yeah.
And I think that's when, every time I got drunk during that weekend, I would just say Jimmy Dore, which is like his Bill O'Reilly.
That's how
singing.
Bill O'Reilly says it. Yeah, very funny.
Which is a weird thing to hear, like echoing down the hallway of a motel.
And just the fact that he did an incredible like Herman Cain like out of nowhere,
He does an amazing Herman Cain, which you can hear this on this week's show, by the way.
Oh, wow, good.
Mitt Romney was so spot on that the Jimmy Kimmel Show hired him.
Oh, excellent.
And Howard Stern hired him to do Mitt Romney.
Really?
Yeah. So he was doing that for a while for both those shows.
Speaking of which, I've said this a few times. Jimmy, how much do you miss the Republican primaries from last year? As far as from a comedic perspective, wasn't that just like the greatest gift of all time?
Well, I find a lot of humor in ignorance and race baiting. So, yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah.
Luckily, that hasn't stopped altogether. There's still plenty of that going
Well,
around.
the bloodthirst and the bloodlust in these quote-unquote Christians is amazing, right? And it's like, what should we do about the terrorists? We should hunt them down wherever they are and kill them.
Yeah. Or
What about the guy who wants health care and he doesn't have health insurance? Let him die.
Right. Do you know, virtually every single one of those people who ran for the Republican ticket was ahead at one point or another.
Yes, they were all front runners at one point or another.
Rick Perry was ahead at one point. Even Donald Trump was ahead in the polls at one point.
At one point, yes.
And
but not when he left. Like he likes to tell people, I was leading in the polls when I left. No, you weren't.
Well,
when Donald Trump quit, he wasn't leading in the polls.
He wasn't even in. He was just polling ahead of everybody else.
So, don't you think it's funny that so Donald Trump runs around asking for Barack Obama's birth certificate for a year, which that's not racist.
No.
That's not racist at all. Remember how
I want to see everybody's birth certificate.
Remember how he asked for George Bush's birth certificate and Bill Clinton's birth certificate and Herbert Walker Bush's and Ronald Reagan? Oh, no, never? Nobody ever asked for a birth certificate before? No, I love that.
That long form.
Yeah.
Long form.
And people are like, what's the long form? It's that thing nobody ever heard of till we had a black president.
Exactly.
You know that thing. It's that thing. I have got my long form birth certificate. I keep it right next to my KKK card.
It folds out like a map.
Yeah, right. And you can wear it as a hood. It's nice. So yeah, I think it's hilarious. I mean, that's why I love doing my podcast. I like making fun of current events because I've always been a news junkie, So it's fun to make fun of the news, I mean, Lindsay Lohan misses her court-appointed. She was supposed to court appointment at a morgue. Right? That was when she was supposed to do a community service at a morgue.
She was supposed to go to a morgue?
Yeah, and she missed it.
Why does that sound like that sounds sexy to me?
I agree. It is a little. Hey, they have that magazine now where hot chicks pose with cadavers. Have you heard about this?
No.
It's true.
What is it?
Hot chicks pose with cadavers. I'm not kidding.
No.
Have you heard about it? Have you heard about this? Google it.
That's like a weird. I mean, human sexuality is wouldn't it suck if that's what turned you on? Because I'm a pretty
at this point,
normal...
I would just be, I took Propecia for 8 months. At this point, I'd just be glad if something turned me on. whatever it is. I
Is
don't
there like
care.
a Hot Chicks with Propecia magazine? Or like
It doesn't work. I'll tell you that. I did take the Propecia. I'm not kidding.
Really?
So I started taking it because my hair started really falling out last year. So I was like, oh, I'll give it a shot. Take the Propecia. I had every side effect. Everything. My balls were hurting. My balls were killing me, and they stunk. Right? They were stinky, and they. And I went to the doctor. I thought I might have cancer. I'm like, do I have nut cancer? And the doctor's like, no, you're all right. I go, oh, so I thought maybe it was just my hernia acting up again. So I was like, oh, I just been paying attention to it. And then it kept hurting my balls. So one day I Googled, my balls hurt. And it led me to a Propecia chat group.
45 pages later.
Hot Chicks with Aching Balls magazine.
Yeah, there you go. You just typed in my balls hurt. Boop, Propecia comes up, you know. And I was like, that's what it is. So you go to this chat group, and this guy's like, hey, my balls hurt. The other guy's, my balls hurt. I'm like, my balls hurt, too.
Oh, it's like a support group.
See, I would think that would be like the 30th hit, right after like 29 videos of guys getting hit in the balls. Like,
but it was amazing. So I actually, and then it did affect my libido way too much. And, you know, I knew it was over when I was working in Cincinnati, and these two really, really pretty girls after the show asked me to come next door. And I was thinking, going next door to have a drink. And normally I would go, sure, because it's fun to be around pretty girls. You know, even if I'm married, I'm not going to do anything. But, I mean, unless I'm sure I could get away with it. And
Unless the coast is clear.
and when they invited me, they go, hey, you want to go have a drink? And I was just like, nah, thanks. You know, and I just kept walking and went right into the green room. And I got into the green room, and I was like, what is fucking wrong with me? Like, it wasn't even a decision. Like, I didn't even have to think about it. I was like, that's when I went off to Propecia. And my libido came back on, and I'm as horny as ever. Even more, I'm so horny. I mean, I look forward to fucking my wife. That's how horny I am.
oh my God.
Like, it came back doubly strong.
Don't
So
you feel like that's like the insidious part about like Propecia, where it's like a lot of guys are losing their hair, so they want to like take this pill to grow their hair back,
Yes.
so they can get laid. But one
Yes.
of the side effects is you're just like, well, I just want to fucking do a crossword
well,
puzzle.
some guys don't have that effect. But some, you know, I was kind of looking forward to losing a little of my libido. I was like, that's not a bad thing in my case. I'll get some shit done.
Exactly.
I mean, you know.
I won't have to do so much laundry from now on.
I won't get kicked out of the DMV every time I go there. But like, go ahead.
No,
You were-
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that, like, I think because I'm a big fan of the Jimmy Dore show, and like,
Thank you very
listen to it all the
much.
time.
That's very nice.
And I think that,
What do you like most about it?
oh well, let me tell you, Jimmy.
Okay.
I think that you know, there's a very fine line when you're doing political comedy and everything like that. There's you know, the worst thing that can happen to somebody is that they come across as angry. And I think that Keith Olbermann
Lewis
falls
Black,
into this
Lewis
trap.
Black, it doesn't hurt him.
Yeah.
Lewis Black, that's like his hook.
Yeah, but
That he's angry, right?
Right.
kinda like
But
this-
he's almost phony angry in a way.
Yeah.
Like,
he's
There's
almost
a real art to being funny angry.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think it, like he's like walking that tightrope between like almost having a like mental breakdown, and that's kind of
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Kind of like what Gene Wilder used to do back in the day.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But it's like you know, but somebody like Keith Olbermann or even Rachel Maddow to a certain extent. Like I love both of them. I think they're great. Like I agree with everything they say. But they can sort of like get that little like extra kick where they come across as really mad.
Right.
And it's understandable to me that they're mad. But I think that when you do that, you become really easy for people to dismiss.
Yeah, well,
on the
when
other
you start
side.
to take yourself too seriously as a comedian is when you become a target for satire or ridicule
Right.
yourself. So
It's like the Dennis Miller effect.
you know, it's hard to get away from it. You know, it's hard to like, you know, I mean, I like talking about serious things in a silly way.
Right.
Or a seemingly silly way, but I also like to channel, you know, people do have anger about what's happening in the country right now, that, you know, there is a plutocracy conspiring to fuck over everyone else,
Sure.
and they're doing it, and they also have an agreement to never prosecute each other for any of the crimes they're committing.
Or like
Right.
the Wall Street bankers. It's
Right.
like none of those
Right,
guys.
And you know, if I could fuck my wife half as good as Wall Street has fucked our economy, I wouldn't have to go through her emails.
But I think that it you know, and I think that you're one of the best actually at doing this, of getting close to that line without becoming somebody that people can be like, well, he's just pissed off. Like,
Well, it took a
you know,
long time to figure it out because Bill Hicks was my all-time favorite comedian, like a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
And I, of course, made the same mistake a lot of people made, was I tried to be him.
right.
And it wasn't, you know, people took Bill's anger. Certain people can get away with it, and I don't think I could. And so I went, and I just decided, well, I have to be more of who I am. And I was just more silly on stage, and I talked about the same things, but I just try to be lighter about it and goofier about it because I just don't find I can get away with being super angry.
Yeah, you're right.
Not that I am against it.
No.
I'm super angry in my personal life, but I try to not be that way on stage.
No, you're right. There's a lot of people who try to do the angry thing, and it just doesn't come across. Like Bill Hicks was a genius about that.
Yeah.
Well, that's why there's nothing less credible than an angry comedian under the age of 25.
Yes, and people who are angry at nothing. It's just like Todd Glass used to make. Well, this isn't really I love George Carlin, but he used to have Todd Glass used to do this joke about George Carlin when he would go. I saw George Carlin. He's a little angry for no reason. The guy goes, the flight attendant said, get on the plane. Fuck you, I'm getting in the plane. All right, George, we get it. We get it.
We all have somewhere to go. Could you just maybe go ahead?
So, but that's... But he's the probably all-time greatest comedian. So, but that's just a funny way to express the point I'm trying to make. That you can't get mad about. There's those guys who get angry at parking meters, or it's like you have to pick. For me, I think you have to pick and choose what you're going to be angry at.
I mean, if you have a tantrum over a parking meter, then you need to have some therapy or something.
Well, again, if you can make it funny, that trumps everything. But it's extra hard, especially in the world we're living in right now. That's the thing that pisses you off?
Right, that's
really all the shit that's happening?
Pick your fights.
Well, that's what I tell people when they watch stand-up comics, It's like you got all day to think about what you want to talk about, and then you see them and it's like, that's what you want to talk about? And then it's like, that's what you're angry at? You're pissed off at homeless people? And that you can't say faggot? That's what you're upset about? It's just weird, the stuff that people get, comics. It's like, there's a lot of stuff that is really ripe for your satire and your ridicule. Right. I don't think homeless people are it. I still can't get over people who do homeless people.
Make any sense
I saw
to
a gay guy doing this bit about if you're homeless, you're a piece of shit. He was literally saying that. He goes, because think about it. They've gone through all their friends already, sleeping on their friends' couches, and they fucked that up. And it's like, no, they have mental illness.
Exactly.
You asshole. That's what this is about. And in our country, we don't take care of the mentally ill since Reagan. So, and it's a moral failing on our part. And I was just like, isn't it great to see a gay guy picking on the one group that's lower on the social ladder than he is?
Right.
Right. It's like I was in a pizza joint the other day, and I saw this guy come in. And he was a homeless guy. And he bought a slice of pizza, and he sat down before he ate it. He put his hands together and said a little prayer. And I remember thinking that was so profound. But I was maybe he was just saying a sarcastic prayer to God, because it's just hey God, thanks for this food, and hey, thanks for the mental illness and the fucking voices in my head, and thanks for all those young people who think I'm just lazy, but I have mental problems.
It is amazing, yeah. You get these people that basically, they're projecting themselves onto the person as if that's the only possibility. Well, I have to think about what would make me homeless, and then that's exactly what happened to that guy that I've never met.
Yeah, it's like people saying I would never be homeless. It's no, well, you have more faculties in that person,
right.
or
you're not mentally ill.
Maybe your mom didn't die during childbirth, and maybe your dad wasn't an abusive alcoholic.
Right.
That's like saying, "Oh man, I'll never have muscular dystrophy," or "I'll never."
I'd pull myself up by my bootstraps if that ever happens.
Those cancer people, those are losers.
I'm going to have so much money, I'm never going to have multiple sclerosis.
My cousin has MS. What a weakling. Getting chatty next to us over here.
I know. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Well,
we're in a bar.
We are in a bar.
We're in.
So when does this drop?
It's going to probably drop on Monday.
Oh, right after I'm out of town.
I know.
Which is why we just need to talk about the podcast, because
listeners, you should go back in time.
You should try to go back in time and see me at Rooster Teas in Sunnyvale.
Exactly. Or just put Rooster Teas on your mailing list, and the next time Jimmy comes to town, which has to be soon, right?
Or
are you going to blow this one up? Or are you going to walk out and mean never again?
Well, you know, I've the last 2 years I've really cut back on my touring, and I haven't missed it a bit. You know, I just ramped up my performing in LA. You know, and and now that I have a radio show on the air in LA, I can draw a crowd more in LA than I do on the road. So it's more fun, you know. And but now the podcast and the show's becoming popular, and it's kind of more fun to travel now. Like last night, there was a bunch of people there who listened to the show.
Oh, that's great.
And it's like, oh, this is finally starting to happen. So maybe I'll start touring more again. I don't know. We'll see.
Do you miss going on the road?
No, not a bit. Not a goddamn bit.
I was watching Artie.
No, I would only miss it if I couldn't do comedy in Los Angeles. Then I would miss it, but I can, so I don't miss it at all.
Right.
I don't miss it a little bit even.
I was watching Artie Lang.
And I like my wife, so I don't. I like hanging out with my wife. So a lot of guys like to get away from their wife and their family. I don't have a family; I just have a wife and a dog, and I love the shit out of both of them. So I don't.
You're like the rarest comedian in the world.
I don't like. I got a good wife.
No. I feel like at a certain age, because like Artie Lang was saying, he had some comic on and he said we used to do the road together, and they all are going back all these great stories about the road. But they I think at one point he's like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. It's just like. Like you have a bunch of stories.
If I was, when I'm selling out theaters and flying first class, yeah, I got no problem. But then you only have to, that it's just a different life then. You're flying coach, you're playing in front of people who don't know you before they see you. That's fun when when I'm starting out and I was making my name in the business. Yeah, you have to do those things, and it's fun to challenge yourself to see if you can and to see how far you can take it. But now I know, and I don't need to go prove anything to myself anymore. So
you certainly don't need to prove anything to those people that don't know who you are.
Goddamn right I don't.
All right,
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say, do you want to take a break or do you want to keep going?
Yeah, no, let's keep going.
Okay.
Keep going, because I got to take off in about. Let's see. Oh, how about I'm going to take off about 20 minutes? Is that cool?
No
Okay,
problem.
that's totally fine.
That's great.
Well, let's take a break, so then we'll come back and do one last segment.
Okay.
All
Jeff
right?
needs a beer, is what he's saying.
Okay, so we'll be back from Epic Roast House.
This is my kind of town. Chicago is my kind of town. Chicago is my kind of people too. People who smile at you and eat.
Okay, and we are back at Epic Roastery.
Roastery? What is
it? Roastery?
Roast House.
Roast House.
Yeah, like it's not a Kenny Rogers roaster.
This is like one of the endearing parts of our show where I get really drunk and just start spouting off
This
stupid
is a
shit.
great bar. I mean, just the view alone. Plus, they have an outside terrace, which is really nice. And it's the weather. One of the few days when you're not freezing your tits off in San Francisco, right?
Well, you know what? This side of the city is really nice.
Oh yeah,
And
the other
everything-
side colder.
The west side is probably totally covered in fog. That's why all these people are going to outside lands. People always tell these stories about how miserable and cold it is, but they're seeing great music.
I get very lucky. I've been very lucky. Every time I come to San Francisco, it's usually pretty good weather.
Really?
Except when I did I recorded my hour special in San Francisco at the Fillmore. Mm-hmm. And that night there was the biggest rain of the season. And Dane Cook was doing a show in town. Brian Regan was doing a show in town, and Dave Chappelle was in town.
Oh, is Louis C.K. busy or something?
This is before he was big. It's in 2007.
Oh, okay.
And and I had to somehow get 500 people, and
wow.
But this was Citizen Jimmy or
this is Citizen Jimmy, yes.
A great special.
The award-winning.
Award-winning, indeed. Best comedy DVD of the year?
Yes, top 5 comedy DVDs of the year, and the top 10 CDs of the year by iTunes.
Nice.
Incredible.
So I was very proud of that, and of course it rocketed me to fame and stardom.
Now you enjoyed a lunch here. What did you think of the food?
Oh, the food is top notch.
Yeah.
Really good food here. Really good. I had the salmon. Fantastic.
Oh, nice.
Excellent.
Yes. How was the soup, Mark? You had the lobster bisque. My friend Mark Van Landuit writes for the Jimmy Dore Show.
He's confirming that the soup was delicious. So we have a witness to the soup.
And you have a beautiful view of the Bay Bridge right behind us.
Yes,
there.
the Bay Bridge right here. It's a beautiful. Everything's beautiful.
I noticed something on their happy hour menu that is a trend that I really don't like in restaurants and bars, and that's they have at the bottom of the menu that it says a 4% surcharge will be added to all food and beverages for San Francisco employer mandates.
Oh, okay.
And that's basically like something they passed here so that the servers would get health insurance.
Right.
But like it just seems weird to me that like the restaurant itself would really want to point that out, that like, we don't want to pay these people a living wage or give them health insurance, but we're charging you more because of it. Like, we want you to know that.
I do find, why don't they put it down there? There's also a surcharge because we have to pay our water tax, and we also have to pay our income tax. There's a surcharge because of our income tax, and there's a what about all the? And there's a Social Security
why don't they just say,
surcharge because we have to pay the Social. And there's an unemployment insurance surcharge. I mean, don't you guys already figure all that shit in? You're gonna start line iteming me a fucking my bill at a restaurant?
Well, they just want you to know that where your anger should go when your bill comes. Like, it should go towards the damn health insurance.
The people who get to see a doctor when they get sick. It's like, what the?
Otherwise, this food would be free.
How is that not?
I love how they nickel and dime you on that.
Yeah.
But like the prices of everything here, it's like they have a burger here, a $20 burger.
Right.
It's actually called the Explosion Burger.
Just wait till you pay the 4% on top of that, though.
But I find that those I'd always run into these idiots on Facebook and in real life who try to go, I have a cousin who has his girlfriend got sick in Canada and she couldn't get an operation for 10 years. Shut the fuck. Those horror stories don't work anymore because the horror stories from America are worse.
Right? Yes.
They're worse. The stories we have heard.
I have a friend who went to see a doctor. Stop right there.
Yeah. We get to see a doctor in Canada. That's wild.
He's like, he's not some guy in a van, right? Like he's in an actual doctor's building?
Yes.
So you hear all those like horror stories about Europe as well. It's just like, no, like.
But people who've never been to Europe, people who've never talked to someone who lives in Europe. You go to any of these countries, ask them if they want to give up their socialized medicine, they'll say no.
Right.
We're the only industrialized country without.
And we pay
universal
twice
healthcare.
as much, and that's what the private. With the whole theory, right? This economic theory. Not only the conservatives, but also people like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama buy into it. This whole theory that privatization somehow makes everything better and makes everything more efficient.
It's the open market.
The thing is, healthcare in America proves the opposite.
Right.
That privatizing something makes it ridiculously more expensive, predatory, and less accessible to everyone.
Right.
Right.
And that's why they stand so firm against it, because their argument is so weak.
Right.
If they give that up, if they say, oh, you know what, you're right about
You're
the
right.
healthcare.
Sometimes it doesn't work.
Everything's going to like fall and
sometimes you privatize things.
Right.
It makes it does all those things you want. Sometimes you privatize things, you get the healthcare system.
Right.
Right? And it's horrible. And I love how they go, oh, deregulation always leads to better service and lower prices. Oh, really? Have you flown on a plane lately? Could it be worse? I mean, I now have compassion for farm animals because I've been flying for the last 20 years. It's unbelievable.
Lucky foie gras geese.
Before 9/11, flying used to be a chore, and now it's an ordeal. It is you're like, oh, and that's another reason why I wanted to stop traveling, was just because the airport experience is such a goddamn nightmare.
It is.
I would get, like, if I was doing a gig, it's like, say this week, Thursday, I had to fly out Thursday. On Monday, I would start getting like a knot in my stomach, thinking about it, all the shit you get. Oh, it's just, and I always have to sneak my pot on, right? Because I don't want to go to fucking Ohio without weed. Are you kidding me?
So you get a hazard pay for that.
So yeah, so so anyway, getting back to this was about the privatization and how ridiculous people are. But
well, in California and in Massachusetts, they privatized. They used to have really good mental health coverage,
right?
And they privatized all that. And as soon as they couldn't make a profit, everything got like scaled back. And now we have a bunch of homeless people running around.
Right.
And there is no push in America to do anything about it.
Right.
Like Willie Nelson used to do those Live Aid things, and what right? Isn't that what they or
Farm Aid.
Farm Aid,
Yeah.
and they also did what was the Billy Crystal and Whoopi?
Comic Relief.
Yeah, that was
Comic Relief.
Comic Relief,
And it's
right.
like, why don't you guys use that to talk about what the government should be doing? Why wouldn't you use that platform to talk about maybe we should stop spending 10 times as much as everybody else in the world on our military, and maybe we could funnel some of that money to taking care of our mentally ill.
Well, but like Whoopi Goldberg doesn't have any really good complicated characters like that, but she does a great homeless person.
She does. She does.
Did you see that thing about? Do you know who? You know Rice Priebus?
Yes,
Yeah.
sure.
You see it?
Reince Priebus.
Is it Rhines?
I think it's Reince.
Rhines?
Yeah.
Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
it sure does. Well, he's
If
one
you're
of
in
the.
an airport men's room.
It's like that was the guy in Planet of the Apes, right? Like he was the guy in charge.
Reince Priebus is a lot like George Bush, in where he gives a lot of dumb people hope that they can also achieve. Reince Priebus is one of the dumber guys I've ever seen in politics.
Did you see that he said, he runs the Republican Party?
Yeah, he's the chairman of the RNC.
Okay. And recently he demanded that NBC and CNN halt production on documentaries about Hillary Clinton.
Right.
Because, not only does he run the Republican Party, but he also is in charge of programming for those two networks.
Yeah.
Well, because the fairness doctrine, which doesn't exist anymore,
Right.
suddenly needs to exist again.
Yeah, apparently it's okay that 99% of talk radio is conservative. Nobody has a problem with that, but you're going to put a TV show on about Hillary Clinton, I'm going to have a temper tantrum and look like a moron.
Wait, you're not even going to call her Hitlery in it? That's just factually incorrect.
Don't you feel like the reason why 99% of talk radio is conservative, it's like AM talk radio, is because they haven't figured out computers yet?
Because why?
Those people haven't figured out computers yet.
Well, it is
listens
amazing.
to an AM radio?
The average age, they did a study and they found out the average age of a Fox News viewer is 67 years old.
Wow.
The average.
That's average, right? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 67 years old. I think talk radio it might even be higher.
So for every 20-year-old that's listening, there's someone that's 120.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not a math surgeon, but I think that's how it goes. It's the reason why there's so much conservative talk radio is because the guys who own the radio station don't want to hire a guy who's going to undermine their corporate bullshit.
Sure.
Right? So why would I... it's just like people go, oh, reporters are so liberal. NBC is liberal. NBC is owned by General Electric, but
Right.
Comcast and 49% owned by General Electric, which is a bank
Right.
and a defense contractor. And so the two biggest stories that the media has fucked up over the last 10 years has been the banking meltdown and the Iraq War. And so I wonder why that is. Why doesn't Brian Williams tell me the story about the bullshit defense contractor? Oh, because he works for one.
Right.
How many paychecks do you have to take from a defense contractor before you stop calling yourself a journalist?
Right. Well, also with the banking crisis, they basically everybody's talking about how nobody got prosecuted, nobody got thrown in jail.
Yes.
But not only that, those same people who put us in
Made
that
money.
position, no, they made money and they're still running it.
Yes.
So what's to make us think that it's not going to happen again?
Exactly. Well, of course it's going to happen again. They're now doing with rental properties what they did securitizing and the futures of them. They're doing that now with rental property. I mean, Wall Street has their fingers in everything.
Right.
They're like the mafia. They're not like them. They are the new mafia, and they're insulated from prosecution because they bought the government. And you wonder why. It's just. I don't know.
What about? There's one other thing I wanted to mention that is something that's in the news. And I know, Jimmy, you're not a sports fan.
I mean, I'm a sports fan. I just don't follow
Okay.
sports as much as I used to because once the guys became half my age, I just feel silly. They're 10 times richer than me and half my age, and I'm supposed to get emotionally invested. I can't do it
Now,
anymore.
you grew up in a very large family.
Yeah, 12
were
kids.
you a Cubs house or a White Sox house or anything like that, or was
It
your whole
was a
family
split.
just kinda
It was a
yeah.
split house.
Oh wow.
And the reason we grew up on the South Side, so I was supposed to be a Chicago White Sox fan, but the White Sox, and one of their brilliant moves when I was in like 5th grade, decided to make. They teamed up with the hockey team and the soccer team in Chicago to start a pay, like cable service. Like it was called On TV, and they would give you the Hawks, the Chicago Fire, and the Chicago White Sox, and you had to pay. People were like, what? So of course we didn't fucking. I never got to see.
So I have to pay to see the Chicago Fire.
So,
by the way, Chicago Fire. That is not a.
I know.
That's like the Fighting Irish. That's got to be offensive in some.
But I never saw a White Sox game like through my whole youth after that. So how could I become a fan if I don't get to see the games? And so I became that was the dumbest thing they ever
I think like
did.
for a while, because like I think like the Yankees started that with like the Yes Network or whatever, you know. Where it was
yeah.
like,
That was
and then I think that like people, you know, everybody around the country was like, oh well, the Yankees are making money at it. Surely there's a ton of like White Sox fans that want to pay $20, you know, to see a game as well.
Does the Yankees still do that?
No, I think it's free now,
No.
but like, but I mean,
Well, it's free
this is
with
like,
basic cable.
yeah, but it's you know,
I mean, you have a product that you can actually advertise on. Why the fuck would you charge people for
Right.
it?
Exactly.
You can sell advertising on it. You can give it to a much bigger audience and make more money. You know, the reason why I have premium content on my podcast is because I don't have 1 million downloads a week, and it's hard to make money unless, you know, through advertising, unless I do a premium content.
do you see how clever he was sneaking in the premium content
I
plug?
know. Well, we have premium content for this podcast, but it's only available to attractive women who come over my house.
Oh, okay. Wow, that is a premium.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to ask you is, okay, the big one. This is like the doldrums of the sports year right now, but one of the big like stories is all about steroids and like
Right.
and the PEDs. And I know one of the things about PEDs, like performance-enhancing drugs, is that they actually work.
Yes.
Like, so I know like you're not like that big into sports, but I was going to ask you, what if there was something equivalent to that in comedy? Like if you found out that somebody was, if there was
There
a
is
drug
some-
that would make you
There is.
funnier.
There is.
What drug is it?
Marijuana.
Um,
Are you kidding me? It's the secret.
You telling me Robin
being
Williams has done it all
funnier?
wrong doing coke all these years, or like?
How many albums of his do you own?
Let's
I had the
see.
throbbing python of love.
Carry the 5.
Yeah, marijuana
Do you think
definitely.
marijuana is a performance-enhancing comedy drug?
It was for me.
Really?
Yeah, no
'Cause every
doubt about. Like it made me a much better comedian.
Really?
Oh no, I was before. I used to never smoke pot, and then I used to be very rigid on stage, and I would never smoke. And then when I did start smoking pot, I was like 30, and then when I started doing the marijuana logs is when I started smoking pot before I went on stage, which I would never have done that. And it just opened me up so much as a performer. It just made me, you know, I'm the performer I am today because of it.
I feel like you're one of the lucky ones because like every time I smoke pot, I clam up.
Oh yeah, well,
Like
I
you know,
mean,
I'm like that guy at the party who's
Yeah.
just like not talking to anybody. But like, if I'm not on pot, I can be social. I'm always envious of people who can be social and perform.
well, it depends on how much pot you smoke. You know, I mean, I wouldn't get baked and go. I mean, I would when I did the marijuana log, but I wouldn't get baked and do stem. I mean, I would get high. I would get a little high.
Right.
And just enough to where it would free me up, open those doors in my brain that were previously locked. And so, I mean, I wouldn't go up there, my eyes closed, bloodshot, and bait. I mean, I would just be a little high.
You and Doug Benson it.
I wouldn't, yeah.
I've
right.
seen Doug on stage
Yeah,
a
I've
few
seen-
times,
yeah, so
like
have I.
referencing stuff that no one has any idea
Yeah.
about.
Or telling the same joke twice. Like it is that.
That's more of his hook, you know?
Yeah,
That's-
exactly. Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, like,
if I was the star of Super Jaime, I'm sure I would be as baked as I could be on stage too. I mean, he sells out theaters. You can do whatever you want when you do that.
right.
So yeah, there's definitely marijuana is definitely that drug, and there's no doubt about it.
I think it's crazy though the science you know like has been progressing so quickly in like marijuana that like
Yes.
I you know that today I mean like kids are doing I sound old saying
Kids
this but like
today,
the kids today like they're doing like these you know crazy like hash derivatives you know like that are called like dabs or whatever that's this like you know shattered like dried oil of like pure THC or whatever that you smoke with a blowtorch and And somebody was saying that, like, yeah, they actually, this comedian that we had on the show once was saying she performed to an audience that, like, had just done, like, a lot of that, and they were completely comatose. I mean, like, they were just, like they were just completely out of it.
Like, I know, like, both of you guys have your cards, right?
Yeah.
But, like Rob Cantrell, who is a New York comic, he does a whole bit about, like, in New York, he got thrown in jail.
In jail for a whole weekend.
That's amazing.
For a roach.
Doesn't that feel like that's a different country? Like
yes.
the country, like my old roommate was like smoking a joint on the street. A cop came up behind him and grabbed him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And so he goes, "Oh no, I got my card." And my roommate does not have a card. He just kind of like fumbled. He goes, "Oh shit, I forgot my card at home." And the cop just goes, "Always carry your card," and gave him his joint back. Now, like, you compare that to, like, getting thrown in jail for a weekend that Rob Cantrell had to do.
That's unbelievable.
I just cannot imagine.
If he took a drag on that,
New
would that
York
be like
City.
police brutality? Or?
But that's the effect of Giuliani and Bloomberg, and everybody just turns a blind eye to it. They know what they're doing is unconstitutional with the stop and frisk, and it's completely racist, and it's a complete police state. You know, I wish they should stop and frisk everybody outside the NBC News and Fox News buildings every day, and we'll see how long that policy stays in place.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's the thing is, we both went to school in New York in like late '89, '90.
We were pre-Giuliani,
right?
And so this is like a David Dinkins era, like, you know, New York, and like Giuliani came along, and basically just like flushed Times Square into New Jersey, and sold it to Disney, and that was that. And like, I can't believe that, like, you know, people were just like, well, he certainly cleaned it up. And it's like, well, yeah, like, at the expense of everybody that was there. I mean, I suppose,
I agree. I agree with you.
Well, I hope that the cops in New York, if you bust a kid for like a joint, I hope that everybody else on the police force makes fun of them. That's like busting a guy in the Mission in San Francisco for cocaine.
Believe
like,
me, the cops do not make. They're all doing it.
Yeah,
they're all doing it in New York. You know, that whole thing about most cops are good. Were they all on vacation during Occupy Wall Street? All the good cops? Because all I saw was a bunch of assholes who didn't realize that what they were doing was against the spirit of the United States Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the whole thing. So they're just tools of Wall Street, the cops in New York, and they're thugs. And we saw, and how you know, and it's a culture. And people go, well, you can't generalize. Yes, you can. It's a culture. It's a mentality. And, you know, it's not like you're born a cop. You decide to join that organization. So you can generalize about that mentality. There's a personality type.
And your dad was a cop, right?
You know, there's a handful of cops that will stand up, but they're not. I haven't seen them.
Wait, didn't you say
my dad was a
dad
cop?
was a cop, right?
Yeah.
In Chicago, right?
Yeah, he was a regular cop, didn't think about what he was doing, just followed orders.
Like Chicago, New York, Boston, like almost every cop is a son of a cop, like pretty much. I mean,
right.
Like, you know, so
I remember
so they grow up in it.
Was a Boston cop.
I remember I said to my dad one day, I said, Dad, you bust people for drugs, yet you smoke cigarettes till you were 40 years old, and you drink, and he was like, it's not for me to decide, it's for the judge to decide. I go, really? So you would have arrested Rosa Parks under that same theory? And go, it's for the judge to decide. Black ladies not supposed to have equal rights. And I got him. You know, he didn't have a comeback for that one. Wow. And but that's when people see, you know, just like the jury in the Trayvon Martin thing. They go, oh, you know, we have to follow. My hands were tied by the law. I had to let a killer go free. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You could vote any fucking way you want. And if you think there's justice served by saying the guy's guilty, you vote guilty.
Right.
You can do whatever you want. That's why you're the jury.
Yeah.
Right? They don't put you on a jury and say you have to vote this way. They put you on a jury and say vote whatever fucking way you want.
Right. Here's the information. You make your decision.
So take that, Jimmy Dore's dad.
Yeah, take that.
All right, well, jamming. I wanna jam it with you. We're jamming, and I hope you like jamming too. And the rules ain't about we can do it anyhow. I will see you through. 'Cause every day we pay the price. We're the level sacrifice. Jamming till the jam is
racism's over in America because we elected a black
according to
president.
some people, yeah.
I don't know if you noticed
We
that.
live in a post-racist America.
Yes.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
We have a black president.
I like how they say Barack Obama's like Hitler. My brother goes, he's like Hitler because he's trying to take over the health care. You know, I don't think universal health insurance was the problem people had with Hitler. I think there was a lot of shit in front of that. Hey, you hear Hitler's invaded Poland, he's killing all the Jews. I hope I can choose my own doctor.
Did you also have like a brother or brother-in-law who was complaining about the
Estate tax.
The estate
My
tax.
brother Phil, it's a true story. My brother Phil one day out of nowhere, he's one of these guys who makes 50 grand a year and he worries about the estate tax. That's how, and so one day at his house he goes, hey, we gotta get rid of that estate tax. I'm like, sure, Phil, what the fuck are you talking about? And he goes, that's if you die and you have millions of dollars, the government just takes half of it. And I was like, that's horrible. Let me know when that becomes a problem, and I'll organize a rally. But until then, maybe you should turn off your AM radio, Phil, and get invited to your own fucking life, okay? Because the states don't have 2 cars that don't work on the front lawn, all right?
And I would go even further than that and say that, like, I don't have a problem with the estate tax at all, on any level. Even if I was rich, I would think, because have you ever known someone who's 3rd or 4th generation rich that's been a really cool, great person?
Well, think about this. Somebody has to pay the taxes in America. Somebody has to pay for shit.
Right.
And they had a vote to see who should pay, living people or dead millionaires.
Right.
And the dead millionaires won the vote. That's how
crafty
strong
bastards.
money is. That's the money. Even from the grave, they have more power than you do.
Well, think about who's on the money. Dead guys.
Dead
Yeah.
millionaires.
Didn't John Ashcroft lose an election to a dead guy?
To a dead guy, sure
So
did.
like the dead vote is pretty good.
Yeah, dead vote, very strong.
All right, so what do you think about this bar?
I think it's great. I think it's one of the quote unquote higher class places we've been. Like it's nice.
It is. I'm
it's-
surprised they haven't kicked us out yet.
It's the kind of place that I would certainly take relatives or people from out of town. Like it's
Yes.
it's
Jimmy, do you like
Definitely.
this bar?
I love this bar. This is a great bar. In fact, I think I might come back to it.
Nice. Well,
That's great.
if you get a chance, there's also another bar right next door called Water Bar, which is the exact same designer, but
Oh, yeah?
it's totally different.
Oh, really?
well,
So
now that
it's
you're
like-
off the Propecia, like you bring Stephanie here and like
Okay. Damn right.
it's a home run.
Yeah, I'll fucking bang her right on the
But
terrace.
So are we done? Do you have anything else?
I don't know. So
No.
what have you got? Anything else coming up? Just look for you on
I got a
the.
book coming out next spring called Your Country's Just Not That Into You. I'll let you know about that when it comes
what's
out.
that?
We teased that.
We teased that, and I wasn't sure if that was public information, but I'm glad to hear that it is.
I just want everybody to listen to my podcast. So Jimmy, if you like current events and jokes about current events, listen to the Jimmy Dore Show. Or you can watch it on the web. I have a web series which is on the Young Turks YouTube network. So check that out.
Tell Robert Yasamara to cheer up for us. 'cause
I will.
We really like
No.
him. And we-
If he likes a joke, tell him to feel free to laugh at it. He doesn't have to like.
That's funny. All right, thanks for having me, you guys.
Hey,
It was a
no,
blast.
Jimmy Dore, thank you for coming on our show.
No problem.
And
It was
we'll
great.
see you tonight in Sunnyvale.
All right.
But yeah, we'll be listening to your show from here on out. So this is SF Barkast. We're signing off. I'm Jeff Cleary,
I'm Andrew Lauder.
and we'll see you next time.